All right, good day to you. My name is Fred Oakman, and as always with me today is Mr. Jake Peters. We are PS. This is Awesome, a PlayStation podcast, and this is the big episode number 200, and we're going to do something different today as well, but this is a show where we share our feelings about the current state of PlayStation. But before we get on with the show, I want to invite you all to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, youtube.com/PS This Is Awesome, and visit us on Twitter at PS This Is Awesome. If you want to make fun of our trophy list on the PlayStation Network, you can find me at anchorless_81 and Mr. Jake Peters at JakeSaw01. And as always, you can write the show at psthisisawesome@gmail.com. Most importantly, don't forget to share the show with your friends. Make sure you leave comments, rate the podcast as you see fit. As a reminder, this is a video podcast as well, and you can watch the show if you prefer over at our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. And for new and or long-time listeners, we now have a Patreon where you can support the show at a $1 level called the One and Only $1 Club. So head over to www.patreon.com/PS This Is Awesome to become a $1 patron and get your free die-cut vinyl sticker and a shout-out on our show. Jake, this is a big deal today. Now, normally we go over news. This is going to be a bit of a celebratory podcast because we finally did it. We have made it to episode 200, which is no small feat, might I add. Takes a lot of...
Took long enough.
Well, and it should have. I mean, we're going to revisit the podcast a little bit. We're going to take a deep dive into the history that is PS This Is Awesome, and we're glad to have the listeners along for the ride. So, how are you doing today?
My neck and my upper back are really fucked up, but other than that, yeah. I'm excited to do the podcast. There's probably a couple of news points that we can touch on that have broke since episode 199, but
they may seem a little dated.
They're very minor, and most of it is going to be kind of looking back. To celebrate our 200th episode, I'm drinking 2 cans worth of beer.
I got a PBR pounder. That's ridiculous.
It's more than a pounder.
It's ridiculous. It's a big slam
can.
PBR big slam.
Yeah. So
it's awesome.
I mean, yeah. But other than that, I'm doing good. I got this new. If you're watching on YouTube, I got this new little webcam thing. It's, if you're familiar with PC gaming accessories, the company Razer, they make like fancy mice and keyboards and shit like that. They make this webcam that has a built-in ring light, and so I'm giving it a go. For as cheap as it is, I think it looks pretty good. And it means I don't have to worry about my GoPro fucking dying and shit halfway through the podcast.
You look great. You look better than I've ever seen you. Yeah, very handsome, I might say. But yeah, so man, I'm doing all right. I don't know. We had some drain issues in my house recently again, and struggled with that. Called the plumber. Man, can I just say something real quick? And this is kind of akin to our show. This is normally we do these things. So, needless to say, I know how to run a snake. You're a homeowner. You need to learn how to do this fucking shit, right? You got to know how to take care of the thing, of your homestead, of your house. And when there are drain issues, they make little snakes. They come with some with hand cranks. Some are 15, some are 25 feet. You can get like really big ones, like, maybe 30, 35 feet, but they cost a little more. Some can clip onto the end of a screw gun. You run through the drain. You do things. You pull shit out. You unclog clogs, right? That's just part of what you sign up for. So anyways, I took a shower and I went downstairs, and old houses, I don't know if you're familiar or not, but they have a lot of open drains in the basement. For whatever reason. We have an open drain that our washer will drain into, or our dryer will drain into. And they're just kind of open holes in the floor. Now, you can get little covers for them, sure. You can get them, but they don't fit really because it's just concrete. It's like an opening that goes down into your drain. So we have one of those, and if we ever have any kind of backup we have an old house built in the early 40s, maybe earlier than that, but if there's any kind of trouble with the drains, that is the lowest point, this one opening in the basement floor. So the way that drains work is it will rise at the lowest point, I believe is the way it works, the water, because it comes down and it'll come up there. So anytime there's a blockage or something, it doesn't matter if it's like 30, 40 feet away from the house, the water is going to back up at that lowest point. So, and that lowest point is in my basement. So I went downstairs after taking a shower, and there was water. Not a lot, but enough to be concerning. So there was a cutaway put in last time we had drain issues. So I got my old handy dandy hand snake out and started snaking the shit out of it. Literally and figuratively, not literally, I didn't pull any shit out, but you're into that nasty gray water area, right? You're in the line, the septic line that's going out of the house, like all the wastewater, whether it be your bathtub, your dishwasher, it all kind of meets there and it goes out. Not at this hole, well after the hole it all meets, but if there's a backup, stuff can slide backwards, right? This is why people have problems. So anyways, I've got the snake and I'm running it. It's not really gross or nasty or anything. It's, I'm 15 feet. I've extended the snake 15 feet 4 or 5 different times, and the water is not unclogging. And I'm like, well, fuck, I got to call somebody. So I call these guys who came down and serviced the house before, serviced our lines before, and left a message. It was Sunday, and then we're recording this on Tuesday, by the way, about 2 weeks before you're going to hear the episode. But I don't know. But anyways, no, only about a week, because this is episode 200. But so the interesting thing is they show up. Now, I need to know what your perspective is on this, because this is where it gets interesting. These guys roll up. I leave work a little early. Like, can you be home? I was like, yeah, I'll meet you at my place 10 minutes. All right, we'll load the truck up. So I'm waiting. And not only, let me just preface it with anyone who is a plumber and actually knows what the hell they're doing, they deserve whatever they charge, as long as it's fair. I have no issue paying for a necessity, right? Like being able to run water in your house, you have to be able to do that. And if I didn't have the tools and the know-how or whatever to get that fixed, then I should have to pay somebody who does, right? It's a trade. So this dude shows up. They roll in. There's a younger guy, a big dude, like probably 6'3", all tatted up, and they have a real nice truck, And then there's another guy who looks like he should be in a Home Depot commercial, like he's the neighbor next door with the glasses who's running like the Wegmans paint or the Wagner paint thing, painting his fence, right? He looks like that guy. And they stop. They get out. The Wagner guy gets out and he goes, "So here you have a clog." And I'm like, "Yeah, we got something going on down there." And as soon as I started saying that, I noticed the young guy like taking off a seatbelt real fast. And he comes out. And he goes, "Hey, why don't you just give me, show me what's going on?" And then we go down. All three of us. We go down. I show him the situation, lay the land. Anyways, the older guy I thought was maybe someone who would he looked like maybe he owned the company, right? Like he slender dude, looked like he had his shit together, mid to late 50s, full head of hair, looked pretty like in shape, like he knew his shit, right? And the younger guy, like I said, looked like he probably could have gotten kicked out of Pantera at some point. So I'm down there, and the young guy's telling the old guy, "Well, why don't you just get the hand snake and see what you can get? See if we can fix it with something, because they start at the least costly option when they do these things, right? Let's see if it's a simple thing, and then as things progress, they slowly break out the bigger tools, the more expensive things." So the old guy that looks like he runs the place is running this snake down my lawn, and he's not like, I don't know if you've used a snake, right? You gotta run it, and then you gotta tighten that fucking thing up, and so there's a little bit of resistance, and you wind it, and that's how it goes down in. This guy's just trying to like push it down in, like he doesn't know how the fuck to use it. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And then the older guy's like, or the younger guy goes to Wagner. He goes, no. He goes, you gotta just turn it. You don't gotta push it, just turn it. And I'm like, this guy's a rookie. He's on the job training in my house. And the other guy's showing him the ropes. And I'm like, it's gotta happen. Someone has to learn somehow, right? So anyways, while they were in my house, the young guy screwed up a couple things. Like I have this ventilation for my 3D printer, right, set up. The older guy, Wagner, the trainee, is told that he needs to pull the snake out because they're bringing out the big guns and running it through my main line, which essentially solved the problem. But he didn't want the big snake to get caught around the smaller hand crank snake. He's like, hey man, you got to pull that out. I'm gonna run this one. And then the trainee's just like pulling the snake out, right? And instead of feeding it back into the tool like a normal person would, this thing's flopping around and hitting my washer, and it's like there's goop and stuff on it, and it's getting all over. And the guy who's training him is like so worried about trying to actually help me that like he can't like babysit this guy. So he looks over and he goes, what are you doing? He goes, you gotta feed it into the thing. You gotta feed it into the hand crank. And the guy's like, okay. And the guy doesn't have any gloves on either, the new guy. And he's got all this sludge and shit all over his hands, and it's so fucking gross. And anyways, he finishes that. He stands up. He hits my ventilation system with his shoulder pretty hard and knocks the whole thing off kilter, and actually broke a little piece of plastic off of the thing that I had set up. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So then the guy's like, what are you doing? He's like, you fix that. Be careful what you're doing here, you know. And then he was yelling at the guy. He goes, listen. He goes, the way that snake's flying around, you could put a ding or dent in their washer. You gotta be respectful of these things. And the guy kept looking at me like, dude, I'm so sorry. Like the tatted guy's like, dude, I'm really sorry, in front of the guy. And I'm like, what are you fucking doing? I'm in the middle of this now. I'm like, it's all right. I'm not gonna say no, fuck that guy, fire him. I'm not gonna say that in front of him. So dude, it was a weird thing. You had complete professional on one side, complete rookie on the other, and eventually the problem is solved, right? But it doesn't go without being an uncomfortable situation. Eventually, he just, the guy who's been doing it, the professional, tells the guy, he goes, hey man, go grab some contractor towels, go grab this. We've made a little bit of a mess. They're doing cleanup. He goes, I want to clean up everything. He goes, in the meantime, the rookie couldn't even get my ventilation system back on. It's really just one of those clamps with a screw. You know what I mean? That whatever those are, couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, this guy's like 55. Pushing 60. How does he not know how to do this? And like, so when he goes out to get the towels, the experienced plumber looks at me and he goes, I'm sorry. And I said, dude, on the job training, there's no better training than that. I understand, it's fine. And he goes, the guy told me he had 3 years experience. And he's looking at me dead serious. He told me he had 3 years experience. And I'm like, I don't know if he has, and I'm just a civilian. Like, I'm not a plumber. This plumber guy actually knew what he was doing. He was talking about angles and he clearly knew the job. So they got the problem solved. But where do you draw the line on the job training when it affects customer service? Is the question.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be pretty lenient with it.
I didn't give a shit. It
would be a different story if I was like seriously concerned that they were going to cause some kind of damage to my house, and then I'd have to be like, okay, you guys got to fucking sort this shit out before you continue. But yeah, I don't know. It's just an awkward situation to be in. It's like one of those, like I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but one time and this was really awkward. One time I was getting a physical at the doctor.
Yeah. And
they had a med student with them. And they're like, can we have the med student perform the physical?
Yeah.
And it was a young lady. And if you're a male that has a physical done,
they're grabbing your balls.
They gotta
touch your
cut
stuff,
your junk and shit like that. So I'm just like, okay, this is really awkward, but go ahead and do it. It's like, it's fine. Like, everyone's professional. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But you have to imagine that maybe this guy, like, who knows what his fucking situation is? I mean, maybe he has 3 years experience, but it's like, fixing shit at his own house, or like,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, or maybe it could be that the guy that hired him maybe just told you that because he's trying to like shirk the blame a little bit for what was going on.
Right.
But I mean, that's a difficult situation to be in. I'll tell you this though, I don't know what they charged you for it, but
I don't know yet either. It's coming in the mail.
I will say this. One time I had Roto-Rooter come to my place. I will never fucking hire those people ever again.
Yeah, what happened with that?
oh, I had a clogged drain in my garage, and so I had water in the garage, and so I called them and I was like, hey, I've got this drain. It's not draining. It's in the garage, and it was like wintertime, so like the ice melt in the garage was like clogging the drain, and so they're like, okay, we'll send somebody out, and they're like, but whether or not they route your drain, it's gonna cost you $80. And I'm like, okay, it's fucking clogged. I don't know, what else to do about it. And the guy comes out, literally takes a screwdriver, forces the cap off of the fucking drain, and it just drains immediately, completely drains. My thing comes completely unclogged. It was just the cap itself had a bunch of gunk in it. No. And the guy was like, oh yeah, I figured that was probably the problem whenever you told me what was going on. I was like, you couldn't have fucking told me over the phone, hey, try this before I come down and charge you $80.
Yeah, right.
And he was there, and I was just like, fuck it, you're already here, roto-root all my fucking drains.
Get them cleaned out, right.
Yeah, because you're already here. I might as well spend a little more money and have you fucking do all my drains, because, it's just one of those situations where it's just like, if you fucking knew it was something that simple, or even if you suspected, you should have been like, hey, have you try this first real quick before it's like those people at Dell that are like, did you plug it in? It's like, okay, this wasn't that simple, but maybe like ask me if I did something that I might not have thought about that you think is a dumb thing first.
Yeah.
Because it's like, anytime we're helping someone with work, it's like, hey, I'm not inferring anything here, but did you make sure this, and this before we go any further?
Yeah, troubleshoot like, some simple things.
So, but anyway, I understand. I mean, we don't have to.
Well, I don't know what they charge,
but I
don't know what they're going to charge me, man. But my concern is that they were there a little bit longer than they probably had to be because of that guy. You know what I mean? So if they're charging an hourly rate, which I'm sure they are, it's almost like,
it depends on the plumber, because some of those trade guys understand, and they take that into account when they give you your bill.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, we had this problem. I had to train this guy, yada, 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 yada. So we're just going to charge you this. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And usually,
sometimes
go
they're
ahead.
good about that.
Yeah, I mean, usually I stay out of stuff like that, but like clearly this guy didn't really have good help. So like, I had a flashlight, and he's like, hey, the plumber's like, can you shine the light over there for me? I was like, yeah, man, no problem. And like, because I wanted the job done, and he wanted it done right, and it was like one of those things where like I pitched in a little bit. So like, we'll see if I get a discount. It's going to be like fucking $2,000 or some shit. It better.
Well, and if he's anything like, a lot of any other business or company right now, he's probably dying for help. And nobody wants to fucking get a job right now.
That's a good point.
It's like, and is in no way a political statement. It's just a fact. Every business I know of around
help
here
wanted
has
everywhere.
Sale signs up, help wanted, blah 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 blah. They're giving out fucking
incentives,
signing bonuses to work at Wendy's.
Taco Bell is giving $1,000 away if you stayed with them for I think 6 months. You get $1,000 incentive.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't have to talk about that. Let's talk about games.
Yeah.
Let's talk
how about we get to the show a little bit? But I kind of wanted to ease the listeners into it with some comedy and something to think about. But yeah, so
can I say?
Yeah.
I know that you didn't prepare for this, so I just wanted to just because it popped up. There's 3 news points that I consider interesting
enough.
Nothing groundbreaking, but I just wanted to touch on them because they did happen since the last episode. You're not going to get a full episode of news this week.
No, this is going to be a trip down nostalgia
next
lane.
Week.
Yeah,
you're going to have 2 weeks without news. So the next live episode, we'll say, when I say live, I mean like timely episode, will be probably on the weekend of New Year's. So. But I wanted to, because I saw these couple things, I just wanted to bring them up. One, which I thought was pretty cool. Sony launched I don't know if you saw this, they launched a new website about accessibility on PlayStation platforms. which explains like all the accessibility options on PS5 and stuff, which is pretty cool. I mean, like, because a lot of that stuff is maybe a little bit challenging to set up in terms of like, you know, how do I get this to work right so that it caters to my, you know, distinct needs or whatever. So they have a website that kind of explains everything, which is really cool. I think I love that all these companies are starting to do more accessible thing, like put more accessibility options in their games. And they also talk about like how PlayStation first party games are going the extra mile to try and make their games have more accessibility options in game as well as system level stuff. But the one thing that I think is really fucking funny is that this is a website about accessibility and accessibility options. And they have a link that is to watch a video about their accessibility options, and it's age restricted.
Oh God, that's funny.
Which I'm like, what the fuck? So like if a kid is like 10 years old and he wants to know like about the accessibility options on his PS5 because he's got like some sight issues or hearing problems or something like that, and he clicks on this video to watch it, and it's like, sorry, you're not 18, so you can't watch the video.
Is that the Sony video you're talking about? Or
on Sony's website. Crazy. So I thought that was kind of funny. I mean, I'm sure
just
they'll
lie
fix that
about
eventually.
your age.
Yeah, I mean, I usually I always do anyway. But so the other couple news points was, I don't know if you saw, but the PS4 has apparently been hacked so it can be homebrewed. And eventually, I'm sure that I know that I think this has happened in the past, and I'm sure that Sony will be able to patch this out. But I think that there's some concern that maybe it could happen as with PS5 as well. So I guess I'm just bringing it up because you could potentially be seeing some hot fixes to PS4 and PS5's firmware sometime shortly.
Maybe they've already seen them by now. Who knows?
Maybe, depending on the time because this will go live
next. I don't have my calendar in front of me.
This will go live.
Well, we just did 199.
The 19th.
Yeah,
the 19th. So, and then the last thing, which I thought was kind of cool, and this we've been speculating on this for a while. I don't know if you saw this, but PlayStation announced replaceable sides for your PS5
and new controller colors.
And new controller colors to match those side pieces. So this is pretty cool. Like you can get, and they're all weird colors. Like there's obviously a black one and a red one, which is pretty normal. But then they have like a pink, a purple, and like a teal color.
Yeah.
And you can get a DualSense controller that matches the color of the console sides that you buy. So this is pretty, and it's supposedly going to be available in January 2022. And they look pretty cool. I wish, they could give me some more like shape options, not just color options. Cause I personally,
for the plates,
I personally don't like the shape of the PS5 console. I think it's a little bit off-putting. If they could give me literally sides for my PS5 that just make it a box, to me, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. At least they're getting there. They're giving you colors and stuff. So this would explain why they've been trying to sue the shit out of all these third-party companies that are offering free sides sides for sale.
Yeah. So the colors now that we have are original white, midnight black, cosmic red, nova pink, starlight blue, and galactic purple. So
I'll be honest with you, I would never buy this personally, but I love the purple one. Do you? Personally, yeah.
I think if I had to pick of the colors an order, that like if I had to purchase them, I think that all of these options actually make me appreciate the white more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if I was gonna pick them, it would probably be black, red, purple, blue, pink, teal.
You don't like
blue
the teal
or whatever the fuck they're calling it. I don't know. It is weird because you do say you appreciate the white, and I'm looking at the black one because we've historically had black consoles, and it looks good, but it looks plain now compared to the white where it's like the two-tone sort of color scheme. But I don't know. I kind of agree with you, but I would honestly probably buy the black one if it wasn't for the fact that my Xbox is white. So I've already fucked up my color scheme on my my entertainment.
Yeah, you're out of
So
sync.
it really doesn't matter.
Well, let me add this, and I think that there's an obvious omission from these colors, and I think the obvious omission is the original PlayStation gray. So that's weird. Like, that would be like a controller that color, and then the plate that color would look rad.
Maybe they couldn't make it. I think that it would work. I think it would look pretty good, but maybe they didn't think they could make it work with like because they're kind of stuck with that black stripe, you know?
I think it would look
so
sick. Or maybe they have like an exclusive console plan down the road with those colors.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. Maybe they're like, hey, on the 30th anniversary of PlayStation, we're going to put that out or whatever.
Yeah, shit.
So because we're at 20, almost 26 years now. So
yeah, let me double back real quick because I have been playing Darkest Dungeon real quick. Jake, have you played anything other than Horizon and Halo and the Matrix thing that we've already talked about?
So I don't know where Horizon.
Not Horizon. What? Forza.
Skyrim. Forza.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Forza Horizon?
Yeah.
No, I've literally just been playing Halo, but it hasn't been that long.
But I guess that's what I meant. Sure, I'll go with it. Yeah, that's what I meant. Well, I was playing Darkest Dungeon, and there's DLC with it, and then we're gonna get to the podcast nostalgia trip. And I was just running a dungeon, and out of nowhere, this huge monster just shows up, and it wasn't supposed to show up. If you play Darkest Dungeon, you can get maps as you traverse the dungeons, and it tells you what lies ahead, and it's never wrong. Well, it looked like it was free and clear, and then this crazy monster showed up from a DLC component that I have with my PlayStation version of the game, and it gave me a warning. It was like, this monster is really, really difficult to kill. However, if you succeed, there will be a very rare drop. And then I went for it, and I killed this thing. And I got a trophy that's like ultra rare or something for killing this thing. And he didn't put up much of a fight. It was actually pretty easy for me. So it's cool that the DLC, it sucked in some content from the DLC and put it in like a regular dungeon that wasn't like part of the DLC. So I don't know. I thought it was cool. And he had like this special move called like Back to the Stars or something. And he like tried to like, throw your guys in outer space. It was pretty wild. It seemed like it was a cool move, but didn't fucking faze me. Anyway, I just want to touch on that. I'm getting surprised with more and more enemy types as I play this game longer. I thought I'd seen them all, and then new stuff just keeps popping up, which I can really appreciate.
Cool.
Yeah, let's get on to the podcast and the history of the show, Jake. So for anyone who hasn't been with us since episode 1, which I'm sure there probably are many of you who haven't listened through episode 1, maybe you've come onto the show and decided you wanted to take this journey with us and ventured back to listen to all those old episodes. The first thing I want to add, or first thing I want to put down on the record is, though we have quit putting new content on our Tumblr site, it is a great time capsule because I have all of our episodes on there. I've managed to put them all on there. There may be an exception of like maybe 1 or 2 episodes are missing, but if you're using streaming software or streaming platforms, it only allows you to go back like 15 episodes or something. They don't let you go back indefinitely. So if you want to go back and reference or listen to some of these old podcasts, you can do that on our Tumblr site, which is psthisisawesome.tumblr.com. Previously, it almost sounded like I said "come," didn't it? I didn't though, or maybe I did. Maybe I said it. It's the old Freudian slip. No. So we used to, Jake. Where do you want to start with this? I have in the notes when we started.
Okay, so yes, and I believe, if it's what I told you, then it is July 19th, 2012. Is that, or did you have?
I wrote August of 2012, but I think that was based on what you said.
Okay, so because I have
August 2012.
So this is going to feed into sort of a little segment we're going to do, but I have all of the notes other than like a year's worth, which is like 50 or so episodes. I have all of the notes dating back to episode 1, and episode 1's notes were last edited on July 19th, 2012. So because we don't have access to the old hosting site. I mean, we might if we go to it. I don't know, but so I don't know when we posted that episode, but it would be on or around July 19th, 2012.
It's a long time ago.
Which is 6 months. Well, would that be? 8 months shy of 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty long time ago. And we're going to talk about other episodes, but I just wanted to bring up just the first episode we ever did.
Well, it's important.
I pulled up the notes for the podcast. So first of all, if you watch the first few episodes we did, they're fucking long. They're like 3 hours plus, because we literally just have never podcasted before. We didn't know what we were doing. We just rambled for like 3 hours. And it was cool. I mean, it was fun back then. We were just figuring it out. But so I pulled up the notes for episode 1, and just to give you some perspective on what happened in 2012, in July of 2012.
Yeah, read some of them. Yeah, read some of them.
So it's not, they're not very fleshed out, but I'll tell you that we talked about Uncharted 3. We talked about the Battlefield 4 beta. So this was before Battlefield 4 even launched. We talked about the new, the PS4 Super Slim, like the grill looking one with the slidey door on it.
Oh God, yeah.
We talked about Shadow of the Colossus, Metro 2033, games that we are excited for. So this didn't even come out yet. Dust 514.
Right.
Fred was playing Max Payne 3, and I was playing Castle Crashers.
Yeah.
And then other games that we talked about were the first Tomb Raider remake and
Medal of Honor,
kind of timely, Warhammer Space Marine.
That's episode 1. We've been toting Warhammer Space Marines.
Since episode 1, we've been talking about Space Marine, and now we just found out episode 199 they're making a second one.
So we didn't know how to
10 years later.
Yeah, we didn't know how to write up like the little synopsises for the podcast. And I'm looking at our Tumblr site, and this must have been what we had on our original hosting site. It says, after what has been quite a long month, P.S. This is awesome has finally found a home. We're in the midst of reworking and redesigning, and our first episode's now online. We will start off as a bi-weekly podcast and then switch to a weekly podcast soon as our ducks line up. This will be a podcast where at Fred Oakman and Jake Peters, he'll get a Twitter eventually, maybe. Well, this is like when Twitter wasn't even really a thing. It was a thing, but it wasn't like a thing. We'll be talking about PlayStation and Sony, as well as giving game reviews, discussing the back catalog, still doing back catalog discussion, and then giving recommendations and evoking some thought. This is also a podcast about everything awesome for gamers around the globe. There will be laughs, regrets, and most of all, awesome talk and discussion about your favorite video games. And it goes on, and same email address. You can write us at pssawesome@gmail.com. Check it out. Tell your friends. Let's set this boat afloat and high five each other. So that was episode number 1.
Did you have any audio from the first episode?
I've got audio. I don't have anything queued up, but what I'll do is the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to take now, Jake, I'm going to lead in because you won't be able to hear it the way our stream's set up, but the audience will be able to hear it. So I'm going to play the intro song so people can hear that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And this is all
the original intro song or the one we use now?
No, it's from episode 1. Whatever intro song that is.
Okay.
So I'm gonna play that. It's a little long. We're gonna play that, and then I'm gonna scrub through somewhere in the podcast so you can just hear the audio quality and maybe a little blurb about Jake and I back in 2012, little time capsule. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit play, and I hope this pulls up pretty easily. It might not even play. Hell if I know. I mean, it's a really old thing. Doesn't look like it wants to play, bud. Let me try it again. Let me refresh this page.
I listened to episode 1.
There it goes. Here it goes. It's going.
P.S. This is awesome. P.S.
So this is the intro song you're all hearing.
Awesome. P.S. Oh man, it's so awesome. P.S. Oh my God, this is so awesome. P.S. Awesome.
by intro. Oh!
So yeah, here we are. This is...
I forgot about that. Do you remember when the song would end, Jake? We had the sound of the PlayStation beep, beep.
Yeah.
We did that for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the intro song. And then I'm just going to scrub somewhere to the middle of this podcast, somewhere, and let the listeners just hear what our voices sound like. Here we go. This is exciting. And I might have to hit refresh again because the file is so old, I feel like Tumblr doesn't want to play it. And we didn't...
It's not fucking tape, dude. it's a digital recording. It's probably just huge because it's a 4-hour podcast.
It's probably a couple things. Here, hold on. I blame Tumblr. Yeah, dude, it's not playing again. But we got the intro song at least to play. Well, we're going to do... Oh, here it goes. You can tell this is a completely unscripted episode, which I'm really happy to give the listeners because it's just organic that way. So it's like buffering or something. So we'll let it go. When it starts playing, I'll shut up. But what the plan here is eventually in the show, what we're going to do is take a random number generator and just kind of drag and drop into some of these episodes and listen to the content. And because Jake can't hear it live on our podcast as I talk with him, I'll have to let him know what it is it seems like we're talking about. And it's just kind of an interesting retrospective of how long we've been doing this. And it's had some ups and downs. The show's had some ups and downs for sure. So, Jake, I guess maybe we should talk about why we decided to start the podcast.
I don't even know. I don't remember. This is going to be a hard episode for me because I don't even remember what I fucking made for breakfast. Yeah. But I think it really just boils down to like wanting to be able to have a place and a reason to talk about video games.
Yeah, the two of us.
Somebody who cares about video games and not like trying to have the conversation with somebody who doesn't give a shit, which is at that time at least. I mean, I'm sure most of our listeners, I think, are probably a little bit older. And when I say older, I mean they're not like 10 years old. And people who are younger probably don't realize that even 10 years ago, it wasn't normal for people to like talk about video games in public, like at work and all that kind of stuff.
It definitely wasn't as normal.
It was like post Skyrim, like into the 2015, 2016 Fortnite started happening. Now it's becoming more mainstream. People are able to talk about video games with one another, and it's completely normal. I mean, especially because of COVID. Now you've got like elderly people starting to play video games and things like that because they're stranded at home and stuff. And, and it's just, it's become much more widely accepted. And it's amazing how much has changed just, socially with regard to video games over the past 10 years. I mean, just think about like the online landscape of video games in the PS3 era, which is when this podcast started, versus now. I mean, there were at the time little to no microtransactions. There wasn't all this weird shit going on with like free to play games and stuff. Actually, what I mentioned, Dust 5.
Hold on. Can you tell us? It just fucking started playing while you were talking. Oh, this is going to be problematic. I don't know why it's doing that, but go ahead. Sorry. Dust 514?
Yeah, so Dust 514 was like one of the first free-to-play shooters on console. Yeah. If not the first.
And it was a really big deal.
And it was a big deal because of how it tied into EVE Online and all that stuff. And I remember being really excited about that. And now, like, all that stuff, there's so much stuff now that we take for granted that just, even that far back was not
commonplace.
Common. I mean, back then, Fred and I weren't downloading full-size games. I mean, we're still buying them all on disc, and the only games we were downloading were like either PS Plus games, which was new at the time, or it was like downloadable. We call it downloadable games, which is the old term for like indie titles. We always talk about Richard and shit like that.
Yeah, they were downloadable games, right? They weren't like brick and mortar CD, DVD games. Yeah, that's so interesting. So that was one thing I wanted to kind of go, and I would concur. I remember Jake, like we were at an age, so 10 years ago, we're talking close to 10 years ago. I would have been around 30 years old, and you would have been fucking what? Like,
I would have been 24.
24. I would have been 30, around 30. You would have been around 24. We were kind of still at an age where we were still kind of going out once in a while and going to the bars. We had a circle of friends. And I remember as like the evenings would like kind of progress, like you and I would just kind of break away sometimes, and we just start fucking talking video games and like, oh, what about this? Have you seen this? Have you played the Uncharted games? Oh my God, you got to try this, and like we would have these conversations. And then at the same time, at that point, I was working, I was commuting to a job, and I had this job where I would just, my job literally was, at that time, was to take like a stamper and stamp incoming mail and date it all, scan it into a system. And what was cool about my job was I could put on headphones. I could just work all day, put on headphones. I was in my own little world, right? Because I'm a cerebral person. I couldn't stand just doing a job like that without having some sort of input or some sort of something I was interested in. So, back then, IGN had a podcast that I listened to all the time. There weren't a lot of podcasts about games at that point. Like Jake said, it wasn't commonplace. There wasn't a lot of this going on. Now, I don't even know what theirs was called. It was called Beyond, I think. I think they've been going. They might be one of the longest running podcasts about games right now. I don't know if GameScoop had one. I don't know but I would listen to that. And I would be like, man, I don't necessarily agree with everything these dudes are saying or these people are saying about these games, and it's interesting and all this stuff. And then, you and I we'd have conversations. I think we should just, if we're having these conversations anyways, why don't we just try to do a podcast? I mean, all extracurricular things are kind of fun and worth doing. So it was cool. I'm glad, that of our interest, not only were we friends outside of gaming, but like our interest for games kind of brought us closer. So I can appreciate that. And now we're in a band together. Now we're doing this podcast a little more frequently. We did go from bi-weekly to weekly, but then I think at one point we'll get to, maybe, I don't know what year it was, but we dropped off the face of the earth for a while.
Yeah, that's why
the dark years.
We're on episode 200. If we had done one every week consistently, that would take a little over 4 years, and we're at a little over 10. We're at like 9 years for 200 episodes. Yeah. So that tells you like there's just there's struggles with adulthood that get in the way. I mean, I bought, in the time that we've recorded this podcast, I've purchased 2 separate houses.
Right.
So
we both got married.
We got married,
started families, purchased houses, everything.
Yeah,
I mean,
crazy.
You have dogs.
Shit.
I've got a dog. I'm sure there've been great moments in our lives and terrible moments in our lives. But the one thing that's cool about this podcast is it's always been kind of consistent. Like, we can just throw an episode down whenever. But now we have the Patreon. And anyways, that intro song is pretty cool. You recorded that in your basement at the time, right?
Yeah, so
that's all
I remember we recorded the podcast, the first podcast, and then you were like, before we post this, we gotta come up with some kind of an intro song. Can you just like come up with something? Because we were recording this in my basement, and so I was just, because you, I think, were either in an apartment or still living with your parents or something at the time. I was
in an apartment, with Chelsea.
So I just like literally one night took like, I swear to God, in like an hour, just sat down and just fucking recorded some random shit that ended up turning out to be this like 50s sock hop fucking tune.
Yeah.
That, and I just like recorded a bunch of like P.S. This is awesome kind of clips.
This is awesome, and then, in the background. Yeah. It's so funny.
And then I got a mic, a condenser mic in my living room, and just recorded my PS3 when I turned it on for that beep at the end.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, I might have spent a couple hours, maybe 3 hours total, just putting that together. And it was the theme song for, I don't know, 100 fucking episodes.
Probably.
I don't think we changed it until maybe episode 100 or something close to that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know how we would figure that out without listening to every single
we're not going to do that.
Like,
The intro song. So the intro song did change. So it was that song for quite a while, and then did we go straight to the one we've had a friend of ours, Ted Scheckler, on previous episodes. He's a very good musician. He's been on. He's talked about the video game Snatcher. I can actually tell you what episode if you guys want to hear Ted talk about Snatcher, because that's the beauty of Tumblr. You can search things. Actually, it's not showing up if I type in Snatcher. If I type in Ted, Ted is on episode 134. Joined by the one and only author. So he of the PS This Is Awesome intro song, Ted Scheckler. 134. He was on. Let me see here. 127. I believe. No, he had a closing song on 127. So if you want to hear more works by Ted Scheckler, episode 127, the closing track is by him, the guy who wrote our intro song. The one that you're familiar with now, and the one that was between the one you heard just a bit ago that Jake wrote, and the one that we have now. Episode 100 was a big deal. And Ted was on. I don't think that was Scheckler. I think that was Ted G. Oh, was it? Yeah, maybe you're right. Troy, Seth, Ted, Bryce, and the mysterious white elephant.
Yeah. Oh, there was was that Zach?
Yeah.
Or maybe
that was Zach, I believe.
Yeah. So, but he was on some early episodes, like fucking 7,
14. Yeah, episode 14,
11. That's pretty cool. I don't remember him being on so many. I guess 11 he wasn't on. He had a closing track. But because Ted at the time was super inspired by the movie Drive, the soundtrack for the movie Drive. So he was doing all this synth, 80s synth music, and it was really good. So we were putting it on the podcast and shit. But yeah, he's an awesome dude. We should try and convince him to come out of his fucking dungeon and go on a podcast again with us, because I haven't talked to him in so long.
Yeah. So Ted, I wonder what episode. Do you think 134, around 120 would be the middle ground episode, or the middle ground intro song? Because didn't he write an intro song that isn't the one we're using now?
So, okay,
help refresh my memory.
There was so there was the song I wrote.
Yeah.
Then the song that Ted did with all of the vulgar quotes in it.
Yeah.
And then there's the version of that song now that you are using that is shorter, that doesn't have all the shit in it.
Right. So this
but I think maybe what you're thinking about is before I made the version with all those quotes in it.
Yeah.
There was the original version that Ted made that never got put on the podcast, had a bunch of these random male voice stingers that were just clips or MIDI files from Apple GarageBand.
Oh,
and it was don't you remember it was a guy going, come on, yeah.
In the background.
And yeah. So it was really, really funny. But that version of the song never made it to the podcast. But those as far as if you consider all of those versions of the modern song as one song, right? There's only ever really been 2 intro songs for the podcast.
Well, let's try to take a listen to the intro to episode 134 and see what the song is. I'm gonna click play here and we're gonna see. I wish it didn't take so damn long to load these on Tumblr. There it goes. Did you rip one?
No, it's fucking you, Fred. Yes.
I smell nothing.
Your shit ass stang.
You're ripping on me because I ripped ass in your basement.
It's a sweet game. I mean, if you've never played Magic the Gathering, you're probably more successful with the ladies than I. But I loved that game.
And then it went from an onion to
a stick of butter.
He literally was chewing on a stick of butter.
And then we saw the first reveal trailer for The Last of Us. Fucking blew my mind pieces. There's really no way for me to explain this game to you and have it sound as good as it actually is.
P.S. This is awesome. What's going on? All right, cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So what's interesting? So that the listeners got a taste of the one with all of our voiceovers on top of the song that Ted wrote just now. We talk about and then there's a clip where you're like, and then we get the reveal of The Last of Us. Mind was blown, and they're talking about Ted eating a stick of butter, someone eating a stick of butter, and just you were ripping on me, saying that I raped your taste buds with my ass. Just a younger version of ourselves, truthfully.
So I can confirm, because I did look this up while you were doing the thing. Episode 100 was the debut of the Ted
of the
intro.
New song.
Yes.
All right.
So
cool.
it has been. So I wish I'd have known that ahead of time, because we could have tried to have a new intro song for episode 200, which would have been fucking cool.
That would have been cool.
Whatever. Maybe we'll make it.
It's not out of the question. I mean,
it's not out of the question.
Yeah.
But it's something that would be kind of cool to do. But yeah, so all those like references, like when we're talking about, like there's a couple of them where we're talking about The Last of Us. Obviously, there's one where I talk about like, there's no way that I could explain a game to you that you haven't played before.
Right.
I'm talking about Journey in that quote. And then the whole thing about Ted eating a stick of butter is, mind you, Ted ate the stick of butter. Same Ted that wrote the song. This was at a Christmas party that I had when I first bought my house. And we were all drinking heavily. I mean, it was a really good time. Everyone had Christmas sweaters on, and then the Christmas tree was up, and guys that like, you know, I haven't seen in fucking years
show
like
up.
Those old guys from high school and shit. And like, and Ted, just one of the things I love about Ted Scheckler is like, he never drinks, and he never lets loose or anything. He's always like super
serious. Just professional would be the best way to say it.
Right.
And I hope he's listening. I hope he's hearing this.
But if we can get him to go, he goes.
Oh, he goes, and he goes hard.
Like, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So awesome. Like we don't let him do anything that's like where he's going to injure himself or others or anything like that. But it's just like, it's like when the curtain comes down, it's like, okay, or you know, when the hair comes down, we'll say, he just like has fun and everybody gets a kick. I think he sometimes honestly feels like we're making fun of him or something after the fact, but it's really just like we're excited that he's having fun. Yeah. Like that's
nice
really the big thing.
Well, it's good to see your friends loosen up a little bit and just be able to let their guard down and have a nice time. You know, that's in a safe environment, and that's, you know, we're not condoning any kind of craziness or anything, but yeah, I mean, we did have some, you know, there were some late nights for sure, as you sip your Big Slam PBR. But yeah, so that was and might I say, that song that he wrote is fantastic. It has served this show so well.
Which one?
The intro song that Ted wrote for us.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's such a good song.
Maybe we can get him to come out of hiding to write another one.
I bet you some of our listeners probably think that we wrote that. So clear the air. That's a Ted Scheckler original.
It is, yeah. So that's really something that, you know, and he's been on the podcast a few times, and I don't know if he still listens to it regularly, but I know he was for the longest time a regular listener.
Fan of the show.
Ted, if you're listening, we love you, and I hope you come out of hiding and hang out with us again soon.
Call us. Merry Christmas. Anyways, so then it, you know, that intro is a little crass, right? And then you and I started taking the podcast a little more serious, started doing the weekly thing again, and I was like, man, I feel like that intro could be mildly offensive at this point, and I didn't think it fairly represented our show at that point either. Like, you know, we weren't crazy. Well, we are kind of wild, but we're not that kind of a wild. And that like I said, is a good snapshot of a portion of our life in the show, and that's what's kind of beautiful about the podcast, is you can go back to any one of those episodes and just be like, wow, I remember that time. I remember what was going on in my life around that time we had these conversations. So it's kind of cool.
Well, it's kind of like if you think about a band, right? Well, you're in a band and you're just playing shitty dives and you're, playing in your garage and stuff, everybody's just fucking off, having a good time. They're not worrying about like the quality or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like we're having fun, right? And that kind of is a representative of that time. Whereas like now that we're both older,
domesticated,
we're trying to put like maybe a little bit more of a professional spin on the podcast, not take away from the zaniness, but like put a little bit more of a professional spin on it. It makes sense to kind of drop some of that, that overt crassness.
I mean, we still cuss like sailors on the show, but that's going to be one of my New Year's resolutions, try to swear less. But anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about the show a little bit more, obviously. At one point, Jake, you had the crazy idea that we were just going to live stream the show. We were going to live stream our podcast. So
I don't know.
We were doing it live for a while. And then do you remember when we had a Skype line that people could Skype phone call us live on our show? We were like trailblazers. This was like early, like episode 14 material.
I had to get that to work. I had like the biggest rat's nest of fucking headphone cables and splitters and XLRs and preamps, and because
I remember
you couldn't like, the hard part was getting the audio from the Skype call into your headphones and also the audio from your microphone, while at the same time having all of that stuff recorded on separate tracks so you could mix it properly. It's like we didn't have the pro setup where all that shit is just taken care of.
And there weren't sites that tailored to that. Like you couldn't pay for a site to make that seamless or integrate like that, as far as I know. So the first episode,
there's no Zencaster. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like that where it's like, oh, we could just have a Skype line in as one of the recorded things, right? And it just kind of integrates. But yeah, it was really bizarre. And the live stream thing, I don't remember how long we did it for, but it was pretty weird.
Episode 11 was the first one we took Skype calls. So yeah, I'm looking. Episode 11, it was that long ago. The show started in 2012. Our 11th episode, we were taking live stream Skype calls. It says, so we must have been really pushing to do something different or interesting to kind of set our podcast aside from the other ones. But it says, the synopsis for episode 11 says, now we're really into the double digits. Jake and Fred get down to brass tacks, talking about the holiday gaming rush and some things that they're excited for. Ted Scheckler joins the group again for some third-party commentary. The guys use their new gear to answer live Skype calls and field some questions and remarks that were received on their Facebook page / Twitter profiles. The guys talk about The Walking Dead, Season 1, Episode 4, Gearbox and Borderlands 2, Sony's game plan for the Vita, and much, much more. Tune in and be sure to reach out to the guys on Skype. P.S. This is awesome, or an email. Intermission track by Tyler Addison James and closing track by Ted Scheckler called She Dances. So episode 11, we were taking live Skype calls, and we had much more show integration back then because there was less competition, and we had people finding the podcast a little easier. Nowadays there's a million gaming podcasts. So
yeah, it was definitely weirder back then. I mean, it much more it was much more of like the Wild West of podcasting back then.
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone's fending for themselves.
We're not like fucking Joe Rogan or somebody like that who's been doing it since the dawn of time, or like those guys that do like that one odd car podcast that started like fucking 2005 or whatever the hell it is, but like long time ago. I mean, I was pretty fresh out of college, a couple years out of college, and it was definitely a different time. I mean,
and let it be known that the podcast has always been called P.S. This is awesome. So
it has been.
It's always been called that since the very beginning inception of the podcast, and that was actually an idea, I believe, of Chelsea's, my wife, and she always totes that around as bragging rights. She thought it was very clever because the PS and the PlayStation, and it was clever. So, and it works. It was her idea, and we took it and we ran with it. But I think that's interesting. So we did live Skype calls. We were doing the live stream on a site called Livestream.
Yeah, that's how old. I mean, that's like live streaming. That's the era it was. There was a site called
livestream.com or something.
And it still exists, by the way. It still exists. I looked it up.
It wasn't YouTube. It wasn't Twitch. It wasn't wherever. You know what I mean? It was just called Livestream, and that's where we were doing our shows, which is crazy to think about.
So for the video listeners, just for a second, I'm going to stop. I'm going to turn my video off because my camera keeps auto-focusing, and so I'm just going to turn the auto-focusing off real quick. I'll be back in a second, but excuse me.
Yeah, we can still hear you. So the other thing, Jake, I wanted to talk about is that we went through different hosting servers too. So Jake and I had no idea how to do a podcast, right? We had to learn a lot. So the first site we used is, and we're not endorsing them at all because they charged quite a bit for the time, and they did take quite a bit of money from us, but we were paying for a service, but we found ways to get around it. But the first site we used was Podbean. We had a Podbean server, and we did all of our stuff that way. Jake would mix down the audio in I believe you were using Logic, right?
I was using...
Was it Sonar first? Did you ever use Sonar? GarageBand?
First it was Cubase.
He was using Cubase to edit the show.
Yeah, and then I was using Logic.
Then you got that Mac, and you started using Logic. And I currently use Logic Pro. Logic X Pro or whatever it's called to do the podcast. So that's interesting. So we went from Podbean, and then we scrubbed our that server because we just... it got to a point where we had kind of slowed the show down, and then, you were paying for it, Jake, and then it was just like, what's the point? So we stopped, then we lost a lot of those episodes, but we still had the hard copies on our hard drive. We're smart enough that we've retained all the episodes. So we had them, and I think we went straight from that to the Tumblr, right? We migrated everything. When we started the show back up.
What are you talking about? Podbean?
When we stopped doing the Podbean show, we went to Tumblr, right?
Were you using was when we switched to Tumblr? Is that when you started putting everything on that
archive.org?
Archives? Yeah. So we did that, and now we're on whatever the fuck we're on now. I don't even know. Acast,
which is a completely free podcasting service. acast.com, which is really interesting. And all of that, obviously, when we were doing it all manually and using free hosting space, I had to reroute the RSS feeds and stuff through Tumblr, and then run them, connect them to a FeedBurner account through Google, and then that would kind of be the aggregator out to all the streaming platforms. So I had to do all that stuff manually. So recently, you guys probably are aware that I've changed it all over to localize it all. So now it's on our Patreon site, and the podcast is handled by Acast. So if we ever eventually start offering free episodes or bonus episodes, we can easily integrate that between those two, and I only need to upload it in one spot, so it's really nice. So anyways, we were I don't want to say the pioneers, but we did play with the idea of doing live podcasts, and that was always kind of fun. We had different servers. Episode 100 was a big, at this point could be looked at the halfway mark. And if I pull up,
even though it was like way long ago. I don't remember when episode 100 was, but actually I could tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Episode 100.
I'll read the synopsis of the show if you want. It says, "Holy cow, episode 100 of PS. This is awesome. It's hard to believe that it's been 2 full years since the start of the podcast." Oh, so we hit 100 fast.
Yeah, it was because we were doing it weekly. It was August of 2014.
Okay, so Jake and Fred are joined by the newbies: Troy, Seth, Ted, Bryce, and the mysterious white elephant. Schedule free. The gang just chats about their favorite titles and genres in gaming while sharing a few brews and generally having a great time. A few Destiny beta codes were announced, but as always, are a first come first serve code and will only work for the first person to grab it. So I guess we gave away a Destiny beta code at the time. And
must have been.
Thanks to everyone.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's thanks to everyone who's listened to the Support of the Cast for the past 2 years. You guys are amazing. Feel free to add us on the PSN. Go ahead.
I'll be honest with you, I wish we had captured video when we did this, because
it was crazy.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
it was like a fucking round table.
Yeah,
like there was like there was like 5 or 6 of us, and we had all these mics set up, and you know, like Troy and Bryce and Ted, like these are guys that we'd never talk about video games with. And we were just like, hey, let's see if we can get as many people we know as possible to come on.
And just have a talk.
And just shoot the shit, right? Yeah. And I actually want to go back and listen to that one, because I know that like the people like Ted and Troy and Bryce, they were all talking about video games. Well, not so much Ted, because I think Ted was just talking about how he played his, 800th hour of Skyrim. But like
Ted Giblin, not Ted Sheckler.
Right. So Bryce and Troy, they were talking about things that were different than what we were talking
normally
about
talk about, right?
Which is pretty cool. So it would be cool. We should ask, like, at some point we should try and get the other 2 Flood members on the show. We should do like a Floodcast about PlayStation.
About PlayStation. That's a really good idea. And we'll cross promote.
Just like one episode, right? And then just to see kind of where they're at, because Nate recently, and I say recently, maybe like a year plus, maybe a year and a half ago, bought a PS4, like at the end of like a little bit before PS5, and so he's been catching up on a lot of like The Last of Us and all this kind of stuff. Troy's been kind of all over the place, but he's been playing, basically, I'd say a good portion of the PS4 life cycle. He's been kind of keeping up. And
that would be an interesting show idea for sure.
Maybe we can come up with a strategy for that. But the one thing I'll say, we were talking about old episodes of the podcast. I think one of the things that killed us as podcasts, and when I say killed us, I mean we were on hiatus for a while. I mean, there was
probably 2 years or something, right? We lost all the listeners we had built up back then, which is a shame because they were loyal and they wrote a lot. And then we didn't even say we were done. We just stopped doing it one weekend.
Yeah, I think probably like I think there was almost 2 years where we didn't record any episodes because it was like. I think it was around the time where we both got married, and there was like houses being bought and all kinds of shit going on. It was just wild. And it was just, and part of why we stopped, and I'm glad we don't do this anymore, is if you go back and look at the old podcasts, we had like every week we had like 5 fucking skits we did for every podcast. It was like we had the news sections, the special conversation section, and the games of interest section, and the games we recommend section, and the other things section, and recent purchases.
It was less organic. It was just, it started feeling forced.
And then we had to like force the notes together every week and think of all this shit every week. And it was like, and then when we came back, I'd say we probably came back in full force a couple of years ago now, but honestly, COVID kind of helped out a little bit with this because we figured out how to do it remotely, and that made it easier for us. Because when we couldn't do it remotely and we had to like drive, especially since I moved out to where I'm at now, it's a half an hour for me to drive to Fred's house or vice versa to record the podcast. So now that we can do it remotely, it makes it a lot easier. And we just basically are like, hey, we're going to do just some basic news points. Not everything.
Right. Things that we're interested in.
We kind of care about, right? And then we'll talk about sort of like
shit we're playing.
What we're doing, right? And then maybe, the games that are being released. And it's made the podcast shorter for sure, 45 minutes to an hour. But I think it's better, to be honest with you. It means we don't have to invest so much time, which means we're more likely to do it.
It's not as try-hard. Yeah.
I think it's better for everybody, to be honest with you. And there are episodes that are going to be longer.
Like this one.
Episode fucking 201, which we recorded these out of order, is pretty fucking long. Same with 199 was pretty fucking long. Dude, so this is a little bit of inside baseball. We recorded 3 episodes pretty back to back because of the holidays. And episode 199 and 201 we recorded in the same day. And dude, we were fucking recording podcasts like all day.
Oh, yeah.
Those 2 episodes, just between us, like shooting the shit, getting things set up.
Dude, and I was up late.
Those were long.
Editing that stuff and putting it online and scheduling it. It's all, the listeners won't know what went into it. But man, that's another thing that listeners don't understand. Or maybe they do. And I'm sure they do appreciate it, Jake. Like I said, we got a nice gift from Vince the other day, Amazon gift card, and we have people being patrons of the show. So I think people know the time and effort it takes And granted, while we're talking about something we really love to do, it is time consuming on the back end. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, orchestration, doing Google Notes, combing the websites, looking for news points, and worthy news points, might I add. And then, for a long time, I was trying to curate some original music from other artists that I know and stuff. And it got to the point where it was kind of tough to get people on board. And I was like, well, if someone sends us something, we'll put a new track on once in a while, put one of my songs on or our songs or whatever, But I don't know. I would like to see more participation on the music side of things. That's something you and I both care about. But yeah, so I mean, again, we have very, very minimal. We don't have any ads. The only ads on the show lately have been for our Patreon page, which we obviously can put on our show without any fees or whatever. We just put it in the show. But we've never done anything like that. I think we did try to cross promo with a YouTube channel once. I don't think it really worked out very well. But short of that, we've been completely ad-free for 200 episodes. We have built listeners, we've lost listeners, we've gained new listeners, we've changed hosts, we've changed intro songs, we've kind of toughed it out through the thick and thin. And I hope that by us talking about how we fell off the face of the earth, doesn't scare the few but loyal patrons that we do have, because obviously, we're way more professional now than what we ever have been. And there is no plan on stopping this. And like you said, dude, yeah, I remember in the dead of winter, it'd be like a blizzard, and I'd go drive to your house. And now, granted, you don't live really far away, you didn't at the time. But I remember being like, God, this sucks. Putting on my winter coat, putting on my boots, being like, okay, well, I'm going to go do the podcast, and get up and you physically drive somewhere, and you don't get home on a work night or whatever night we were doing it until I'd be getting home 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, because I would sit with you most days when we mixed it down and edited it and uploaded it. You know what I mean? Right. And it got to the point where it's like, dude, I can't stay later. It's too fucking late. But, I do all of that now because I have all the files saved locally on my computer. But yeah, there's a lot of time that goes into this thing. And it is, when we say it's a labor of love, it truly is. It's a labor of love. We love gaming. We love what it affords us. And I think, definitely appreciate you, man, as a friend and as a bandmate and just someone to talk video games with. So I'm really glad we've been able to keep this going and kind of revive this podcast. And I think the listeners would agree that they're happy that we're still doing it. So, I'm trying to think if did you want to try the roulette thing? Now, so the thing, we had a plan that what Jake was going to do was going to pick a random number between 1 and 200. And then we were just going to slide into one of those episodes and let you guys just hear a piece of that podcast, like maybe a good 10, 20 seconds. And then Jake and I were going to maybe add a little commentary on what that episode was about. I am having trouble on the fly here getting some of these to play. Jake, can you say something real quick?
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm looking. Yeah. It kind of is scary because my OBS looks like it's freezing. We are back. And so a little bit of a blip right there in the podcast, so we're still cutting our teeth on this shit. But as I was saying, we're going to do a random number generator. Jake's going to come up with a couple of numbers. We're going to pull up a podcast episode, and we're going to take a quick listen to it, and then we're going to have a little commentary on it and a little trip down memory lane for episode 200. Jake, do you have a number generator pulled up?
Yeah.
All right, hit me with it.
Yeah. All right, so the random number is 64.
Episode 064, search. Oh, God. Do I read the synopsis, or do we just go right to the middle?
So, go ahead and... So, let's read the synopsis, and then we'll just play a bit in the middle.
That's a good idea. This is a pretty long synopsis, but we're going to go for this completely random, live, on the whim. How do we feel about Rockstar rolling out $500,000 to us? Listen and you'll find out. How do we feel about Watch Dogs and the crew getting pushed back? Listen and you'll find out. How do we feel about video games invading the comic book world? Listen and you'll find out. Just go educate yourself. P.S. This is awesome. P.S.TIA 64. Watch Dogs and the crew's pushed back. So this might be notes from the show, actually. Ubisoft changed the launch day. Something about this changed the launch day title Witcher comic book series. Announced something Beyond Two Souls. Talking about that. The Last of Us gets 4 more multiplayer maps for $10. Abandoned Territories map pack plus a new patch. New PlayStation commercial. The DualShock 4 will be compatible with the PC at launch.
Oh, you're just literally reading the notes because I have the notes pulled up right now.
So I guess that's not much of a synopsis. Let's just go.
So maybe let's just do this, right? So from now on, what we'll do is I'll pull it up. I'll give a quick summary of what's in the notes, and then I'll tell you when it happened, what day it was, the date, and then you can just play a quick thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
So we already have this one. So
yeah, so this happened, before you play it, this happened October 15th, 2013.
The fucking thing that pisses me off about Tumblr.
Better experience.
Here we go.
With sitting down on the couch with someone.
That could be very true. And I mean, honestly, like, that's the kind of gamer that I am in terms of multiplayer. Like, there's a reason why I don't like multiplayer games. I don't like getting online and being completely disconnected from strangers who can just sit there and just trash talk you and do all this stuff. You don't know.
There's no repercussion.
You don't know who they are. You know, it's just like it's not even a really. It's not truly multiplayer. I mean, yeah, you're playing with someone, but I mean, you don't fucking. For all you know, they could be just a bot. You know.
That was a good clip. So it was you essentially talking about why you don't like online multiplayer games, and essentially for all you fucking know, you could just be playing a bot. You don't even know. So it's not truly multiplayer. You're going.
So probably going off.
You were kind of going off. It was good. It was towards the beginning, but that was a good clip.
So I'll say some funny things. I was looking over the notes while you were playing that.
Yeah.
So funny things about this, right? We talk about how apparently at this time a sequel for the game Sleeping Dogs had been confirmed. Never happened.
Wow.
So I was less into it. I think you really liked it.
I really like Sleeping Dogs. That was a great game.
So it was like a GTA style game, but it was took place in China or Hong Kong, and it was like a lot of hand-to-hand combat and stuff. It was very, very cool.
It's really good.
I couldn't wrap my head around the combat, so I kind of fell off on it, but I liked everything else about it. But yeah, it was a critical darling, commercial failure, basically. Yeah. So they ended up not making a sequel for it, which is really, really interesting. Other notes on here, the Wolf Among Us episode 1 came out.
Yeah,
so
Telltale.
We're dating the podcast.
This is before Telltale took their dive.
Yeah, so and you were talking about $500,000 from Rockstar, and it's in Grand Theft Auto Online money, because this was right after Grand Theft Auto Online came out. So that's what that's talking about. So that was kind of interesting. So we talk about the games we were playing at the time. You were playing, like, we were talking about Beyond Two Souls, Puppeteer.
Oh yeah,
and the game Rain. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember Rain. That game was really cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
interesting.
So let's go to another episode here. So I'm gonna generate a random number.
This is fun.
What's up?
Yeah, pull another one up.
All right. I just got 199. I'm not doing that.
No, we're not doing that.
That was literally fucking 2 days ago. Okay, so episode 33.
Oh my god,
is the next one that I'll pull up the notes for it.
This is fun.
So 33 here. Pulling it up. Okay, so episode 33 was March 4th of 2013. So this is a little older than the one we just talked about. This is the announcement of the Beyond Two Souls release date for October 8th, 2013. And apparently they also announced that Willem Dafoe was going to be in it. So tells you how old this is. Talking about release date for Metro. Talking about release date for fucking Remember Me. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my god, they had a deal, get $10 back for every $50 spent on the PSN. That's pretty fucking good.
That shows inflation right there. That's wild. And then it looks like MLB 2013.
MLB The Show.
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah. We're talking about new releases, demos, because demos were actually still a thing back then.
Wow.
And then, obviously, we were talking about games we were playing. Fred was playing XCOM and Metal Gear Solid 3, and I was playing Skyrim at the time.
Surprise, surprise.
Nobody's surprised. So that's which is funny because this was 2 years after Skyrim came out. So
yeah.
I don't know why the hell I was playing it at that time. Probably, that might have been when I was trying to get the platinum for it. But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
When did this one air?
Yep. When? It was March 4th, 2013.
Okay. Let's see if we can pull up a clip for episode 33 of PS This Is Awesome. Just gotta hang in a moment, guys. It's gonna pull up. This is the glory of the internet, of course. And I think these older episodes take longer because we weren't sure how to upload. They might even be WAV files, if I'm being honest. They may not even be MP3, so it might take for.
So they might be fucking huge.
They might be huge files that don't just want to pull, because I know the other one came up much easier. So I'm gonna actually resubmit this and hit play. Here we go.
Everybody out there, something for you guys.
It's going, but you can tell like there's a weird buffer.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so we have a live stream, livestream.com/PS. This is, or just go to livestream.com and look up the show. It might be /PS. There's also one.
I'm going to scrub forward because it's still part of the intro. Sorry, listeners. You just have to bear with us. You're part of this moment with us. I appreciate it. And this is probably the most unprofessional podcast. So it's
sweet looking.
Here we go.
Like kind of some humor. They got like it's a lot of neat puzzles and stuff. Definitely recommend it. All the characters are really cool. The cave talks, and the cave is really cool. I don't really
just
know.
go listen to our review of the demo,
which I don't even remember.
It doesn't matter. Go find it. It's in the show notes.
Yeah, so back in the day. So look on Podbean and scroll through our feed, and you should be able to find it.
PS is also on podbean.com. Listen to what we had to say about the cave. Moving on, Jake. What other games?
The Cave? Was that a game, Jake, called The Cave? Was there a cave that talked in a game that you reviewed a demo of? What's hilarious? You know what's hilarious? Is like in that clip, it said, if you're not sure, go look at the show notes at podbean.com.
It was a fucking game called The Cave. I remember this. Yeah.
You were talking about that. Let me hit play again real quick, because it's working. Hold on. Let's see what else 33 had for us. Let's see what the hell else. Or not. Why don't you generate another episode while we're seeing if
that was a Double Fine game. Yeah.
The Cave.
I remember this. Yeah.
I don't know. Like you said something about the cave, and then we were like, just go look at the thing on the Podbean site. So I don't think we're gonna get any more audio out of that one. I apologize, listeners. So Tumblr's being a bitch.
Yeah, so the next one that I pulled up was episode 89.
It remembers how much money you've spent during that month, and then it says, okay,
this is still episode 33.
Fred spent $100 on crappy G.I. Joe video games on the PSN this month. So it sends him a $20 voucher for use on the store,
which we all know some of those games are pretty cheap on the store, so
which is pretty exciting. So if you guys out there wanted to buy any games like Tomb Raider, which is coming out tomorrow, if you're live streaming today, probably if you're
just championing the $10 rebate from the PS. You ripped on me for buying shitty G.I. Joe games on the store, and how I probably could use the rebate to buy more shitty G.I. Joe games on the store or something. Which is pretty true. Episode 89, Jake. I actually do have the synopsis on this one. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
All right. So it says, welcome to episode 89 of our awesome podcast about PlayStation gaming. In this episode, we talk about more departures from Naughty Dog, Watch Dogs, Child of Light, games that come out this week, PS Plus games for May, and a whole lot more. We're getting close to episode 100, so if you have any ideas what we should do for the number 100, feel free to write the show. And then it says, hope you had a good week. Stay safe out there. Lots of bad weather on the horizon. So it must be close to winter time, I'm guessing. When did 89 release?
This was April 28th, 2014, so it must have been at the end of winter, the tail end. Maybe there was a bad storm coming through or something. But interestingly enough, we have in the notes, we have a Books Galore plug, which I don't know if you remember, we gave a bunch of those flyers to Books Galore.
I do remember that.
We told them we would plug them on our podcast, which is cool of them to leave flyers up.
They're a comic book shop.
comic book shop in Erie, PA. It's where Fred buys all his comics he never picks up.
True.
And I bought comics there for a little bit, but then it just got too tedious for me.
Yeah.
But it's pretty interesting. And the drop that week was Child of Light, which you remember that game?
That was a great game.
That was a great game. A UbiArt game. There was 2 UbiArt games that came out, Child of Light and Valiant Hearts, both which were
fantastic.
fucking awesome. And they have never released another UbiArt game since. So I don't know why that's the case, but I wish they would have continued that experiment because both those games were awesome. Tiny experiences, but really successful.
Pretty games and interesting games too.
Yeah, I got a little bit tired of the poet speak in Child of Light, but the game was awesome visually and gameplay wise.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know how quick a clip's going to get pulled up on this one. We might be more the same old, but I'm going to try to pull up a clip and let's hear what the hell's going on in episode 89. We still have the old intro, of course.
And
at the end, I'm going to go a little bit further in. It took me a ways there.
Cakes.
Here we go.
But
Jake, you're coughing really bad.
Did you rip one?
No, it's fucking you, Fred. Yes.
No.
Yes.
I smell nothing.
Oh, I scrubbed right to the fucking rape my taste bud. Right to it out of fucking 200 episodes. Are you kidding me?
That's funny.
Hold on, I got to finish playing this.
Your shit ass stank
I smell
is
nothing.
coming over here and raping my taste buds.
What?
I smell nothing.
How could have I totally found one of the audio drops we put on our intro song? That's just the podcast gods are looking out for us. I couldn't believe it.
That's amazing.
Let's hear a little bit more of this conversation, shall we? Because the listeners probably only remember from the intro song.
Come over here. I swear to God, it's not me.
Yeah, because it's all over here. You're leaning back and blasting that shit my way.
No, light a match. You'll see where the source is.
Yeah. I'm gonna fucking keep a candle under your chair so the next time you do this shit,
I don't know what you're talking about. It's not even me.
It's so
I'm denying that it wasn't me. It was just the two of us in the room. And then I said, light a match and you'll see where the source is. Then you said, you're going to leave a candle under my chair. So next time I fart, I'll catch on fire.
gross, dude. Keep it in your asshole.
So good.
That's
not even me. Go ahead.
That's really funny. God, I'm done now.
I want to hear about
We're done.
Red Man making cake. What's his name?
Most Def.
Most Def. Most Def. I guess you were talking about Most Def baking a cake or something. I don't know. I confused him with Redman, but the rapper.
Most Def.
We can listen more if the listeners want to hear more of what's happening.
No. Let's do like one or two more and then we'll call it.
I can't believe
this podcast could be fucking 10 hours long if we wanted to.
Yeah, but I can't believe I scrubbed to that. That's the craziest thing.
That's really good. That's really
How many hours of content? I mean, we just found it. I swear, God's honest truth. I swear that wasn't planned at all. That's wild. All right, random number.
So the next one I picked up is 111. Mm-hmm. And this one is interesting. This is November 24th, 2014. The first news point is Bloodsport. Video game controller that takes your blood when you bleed in the game. Used to increase donations in Canada.
Is that true?
I have no recollection of this. So I don't know what the hell we were talking about. But it's in the notes that we have for the podcast. We talk about, I mean, do you have a synopsis that's like...
Yeah, I'll read the synopsis real quick. Okay. It says, Jake and Fred talk a lot about Dragon Age Inquisition, but not enough that it spoils anything for you listeners. We're back on time and on track, and we'll be back next week. We also talk about the ongoing movement of buying digital games versus retail games. It's getting close to Black Friday and Christmas, so we point out a few good deals that may be worth your time to check out, as well as how we are going to handle Christmas this year. What we ask for, what we want. Thanks for tuning in, and as per the norm, all games coming out this week and other news points were discussed, including Bloodsport. No, Not that awesome 80s Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. Until next time, P.S. This is awesome. So I have no idea what Bloodsport is.
Bloodsport was that thing I was talking about.
It's a controller that draws blood when you get hit?
Fucking apparently. I don't know. I guess I gotta Google it now.
Well, let me scrub to a part while you look this up, and then we'll come back and revisit Bloodsport, because I don't remember what the hell that was. Here, you're going to hear a bit of the intro, and then I got to scrub it. We're into the new song.
Have a shitload of people buy it right off the bat and try to recoup as much money as possible, even if the game is not as good as we should. But like literally, the game when it launched, they didn't have enough server capacity for the few people that actually bought the game. There's no fucking reason that should have happened.
Well, Bob said it was fine.
I could understand. I could understand if they concurrently released the PS Plus edition and there was a million fucking people jumping on the same day. But it was just
the purchase versions.
Yeah, it was just the retail versions, and they probably only sold like maybe a couple 100,000 copies. It's not like they had
millions like Destiny.
Of people. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like what they should have. Simple mathematics should have led them to believe that their servers were not going to have the fucking capacity to handle this many players.
Right, but there was my point is there's probably some douchebag involved that was like, no, they're fine. Trust me.
Well, there was also like a switch.
Okay, so apparently a game was released. Maybe if you have the show notes, you know what you're talking about. A game was released, and the servers could not handle the amount of people trying to play it at this time, and it crashed, and it caused a big what to do, and you're freaking out about it, and you're like, they should have fucking known. Obviously, they weren't ready to roll this out yet. I don't know what game you're talking about. I'm gonna continue to play it.
There was also a switch.
We're talking about Destiny.
Okay.
So this could have been early Destiny.
Let me see here. Hold on.
Up in management with like Jack Tretton and stuff. I don't think that necessarily has a whole lot to do with it, but I think that there could have been
maybe
some changeover and shit in the last year that maybe someone new came in and they really didn't know what the fuck was going on. So they're just
sound
like,
a little under the weather.
Ready?
It's
and
funny.
Everyone's just like,
too scared to say no, right?
Right.
It was probably Destiny. If I take a
Destiny
now, you know,
I think
that's what it was.
This is a lesson.
Destiny 1 launched around this time.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to say here the lesson learned. So let's hear if I say the game name, and then we'll move on to the next one. Then we'll learn where like it's better to tell the truth than to lie about something.
Dude, you're always gonna get flamed more for
being dishonest.
Dishonest.
Yeah. I said it's always better to tell the truth than lie about something, and you said, dude, you're always going to get flamed for being dishonest. So somebody pulled something on the gamers and tried to get away with it, and we were both audibly upset about it.
So I looked up this Bloodsport thing.
Yeah.
It was a Kickstarter.
Okay.
There's like a picture of a guy playing video games with an IV in his fucking arm. Not like an IV, but like a needle in his arm while he's playing. And when you get shot, it draws blood. And you play until you fill the donation bag, whatever the amount is. That
would hurt. Like having a needle in your arm that long, it causes some bruising.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, apparently Kickstarter shut it down. That's why we never heard about it ever again.
All right.
But yeah, that's what it was a thing where it's like you could play video games while you were donating, and every time you got shot, it would pull the blood out of you, and it was supposed to be some incentive to get people to donate more blood or whatever.
Weird.
Pretty weird, though.
Let's do one more episode, and then we'll wrap up the show. And maybe while I'm streaming this next one, see if you can find something to close it off with, because I think we are on the letter L. So we've got to find some games that begin with letter L. But go ahead, pull the random show.
Okay, so the next one is going to be, so we're going to go back a little bit. This will be 74.
Oh, no, this one might take a while to load, but we'll try it.
I mean, we can pick a newer one if you'd rather.
Nope. This was the first episode of 2014.
January 6th, 2014, yes.
And it says, in this episode, Jake and Fred talk about some of the more recent news topics. Fred has trouble replaying The Last of Us. Jake talks about The Puppeteer. And during all of this, the guys are just trying to keep warm. Fred goes on about how he reviewed, in parentheses, or in quotation marks, Battlefield 4 for DICE since they asked the public to do that. Jake went into some detail about Gone Home and his experience with that game. And on top of it all, we're getting Don't Starve and Devil May Cry because we are PS Plus members. So grab some hot chocolate and a blanket, bundle up because, well, PS, this is awesome. Episode 74. January of 2014. I would have been, it's 2021. So how many years ago is that? That is 8 years.
Well, it'll be 8 in January.
Yeah, so I would have been like,
so in a couple weeks,
about 32 years old, and you'd have been a baby. So I don't know what we're going to talk about, but what I'm going to do here, episode 74, we said, right? And Tumblr, again, is being a pain in the butt. We're going to pull this up and listen to this real quick, and then we're going to close it off and thank the listeners for being part of this freaking thing with us. Here we go. Let's play it. Got the old intro song, of course, and I'm just scrubbing a little bit, so bear with me. Here we go.
Maybe I should put it in and like, because I've been meaning to go back to it, put it in, like play it some more and see.
Well, you got the new patches and stuff. I'm sure they've downloaded automatically.
Probably, yeah. I imagine. It's cold.
The thing that sucks is like when it shows like all the pollen and stuff, like on the loading screen, how it's just kind of fluttering around and stuff.
Talking about The Last of Us, I think.
It'll show like the loading numbers in the bottom, and it'll get up to like 50, 65, 70, and then it resets. And it goes back to like 0, and it goes all the way back up, and then it pushes a little further, then it resets, and it goes, and like it's never done that before.
It did that a little bit with me when I first
if I
had
remember
the game.
correctly,
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's not
back then
not
we were
new.
all over Naughty Dog's dick.
No matter what, it takes like
it takes a while to load.
It takes like 5 or 6 minutes.
I think we're complaining about load times for The Last of Us, about how it would show the pollen, and it would go up, and then it would back off, and then it'd go back up a little bit, and you're like, yeah, it happens, it does that. And I'm like, I don't know, they're rolling out some patches or some shit. So let me just scrub up a little bit more, because I feel like
in the game, like it kind of fills in what the world is like around you.
Right.
And those kinds of games are really cool to me. I would much rather it be like not like really cinematic games like Metal Gear are awesome. But like I like how games like this and like BioShock and stuff where they let you discover the world.
They have a lot of flavor
if you want to.
Right.
There's a lot of depth that you can discover.
Talking about cinematic games like Metal Gear being really awesome, but you also really like a game that has a world like BioShock where it gives you the option to look into the world a little more if you want to. Like you can make that choice as a gamer to dive deeper into the lore, and it's not forced on you, but it's there if you want it. I do like that about games. So I don't know.
BioShock is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But you were giving praise to Metal Gear for the cinematography and how movie-like it is. But I'm with you on that. I think it's cool to have the option. Metro's really good at that. The Metro games, the pickups, the collectibles. And initially I think the Destiny games were like that too, with the Grimoire cards and stuff. Like that game meant nothing unless you picked those up and read those.
It was a little too much in the Grimoire for the original Destiny, though. They didn't give you anything in game, which was fucking annoying. But it's cool if that's like an additional feature to the story that exists. But the fact that they gave you nothing in the first Destiny is annoying.
Yeah, dude, I still can't believe I scrubbed right to that. I mean, if you had asked me earlier today to find out what episode that occurred on, would have been impossible. Would have been impossible. Because
it's really an amazing kind of, moment in the universe, I suppose.
It's a really great moment for the podcast for us to pull that clip out of thin air. Like, that's really awesome. I'm really happy that happened. It makes me feel really good about it. So anyways, I think we need to wrap this up. This is one of our longest podcasts, and to be quite honest, it may not have been for everybody listening. This was a podcast I think that Jake and I were doing more so for ourselves to kind of celebrate.
Just going in the Wayback Machine. I mean, to be honest with you, there are probably a lot of people that maybe got tuned in recently because of our recent kind of stretch of doing it consistently.
In the YouTube channel.
And, maybe they would be interested in checking out some of this old stuff. But, then we got OGs like fucking Harold, who have been with us since like the beginning. I don't know why the fuck he's still listening, but I'm super happy he is.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Harold, we appreciate you out there, bud.
We had a couple other people that like listen. Like we had a truck driver for a while that would write us.
Yeah,
we only know about the people who write us.
Guys,
the people who reach out. There was an Arctic Warlocks person at one point that was writing us a bit. And then, we're talking 200 episodes, so we definitely have had other people jump on the train and fall off the train and come back on. But I think Harold's been with us forever. for as long as I can remember, you know.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And LJ recently has been a hardcore supporter of the show and writing me all the time about podcast questions and picking my brain on my Facebook page about you know, just what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And it's cool because sometimes he'll pick up on a news point that I didn't even know existed, and I'll mention it on the show. So yeah, we're very community driven, though our community's not huge. I feel like we're all pretty tight with one another, and it's been fun to have you guys and girls along with us for this long ride. And as far as where we're going, Jake, I mean, we're going to keep doing the podcast as is, right? Every week is the plan, and we're going to keep doing it. And like I said, if we get more patrons, we might start offering patron exclusive content. I think this is a good test, the fact that we're recording some stuff prematurely and then setting up the release dates and stuff and being a little more orchestrated and organized like this. We're doing this so that we can stay consistent and have a podcast out for everybody while I'm on vacation and during the holidays. Sometimes it's hard to you know, we would never put the podcast before family, but there are nights where we do in some ways, like right now, you know, you're not doing Silver Star and I'm not with Chelsea and we're doing this, but that's all part of the game. This is like I said, a labor of love. But during the holidays and stuff like that, we're surely going to be spending time with our loved ones and family. So wanted to make sure we recorded these, and I'm glad, Jake, that we were able to go back down memory lane and take this nostalgic trip down the podcast, because thinking about it really is an achievement. We've been doing this literally for no monetary gain. You know what I mean? There's no reason for us financially to continue to do this. In fact, I would wager to say that we've lost money on the podcast. And it's never been about money. We're not trying to make money, but if we can, we will. You know, if you guys want to donate, we would take it. But I just want to stress to the listeners that it's never been about that, and I think that's why it took us so long to even do a Patreon page, because we just weren't sure. You know, I don't know. I guess part of me felt a little guilty about even saying, hey, give us some money. But at the same time, I guess it makes sense. You know, if you believe in what we're doing and you want to support us, we should make that an opportunity and an option for you. And like I said, it's never expected, but it is always appreciated for sure. Definitely. And we can't thank you guys enough who actually do participate in our Patreon. And you know, I don't know. It's just been a fun ride, man. You know, we've got those stickers. It would be kind of cool maybe down the road to have like some sort of, I don't know, some sort of merch or something. But I mean, we're not nearly big enough to do that yet. But it would be cool. I wonder if there'd be interest in something like that, like a t-shirt or something. But I don't know, we have a lot of artistic friends who could probably draw something up that would get us out of any kind of copyright problems. You know what I mean? Infringements. Sure. But it would be kind of cool to have. We had some mugs for a while on Zazzle. We had a Zazzle account, Zazzle.com. So you might actually still be able to find them. I might have taken it down when we changed our logo. But we had some mugs and stuff that you could buy for a short amount of time. And I know some family members of mine have mugs. And Jake, I think you have some stuff. And I think maybe we've sold a couple too to listeners along the way, but I don't think that those are even available anymore. But yeah, I don't know. It's getting kind of late. We're recording this on a work night, so again, could we do the show without the listeners? Yeah. Are you guys often very silent? Yes. But we do have some of you guys who write to us, and that's the fire. That's what keeps us going, and our love for the gaming. And
I love it when people write in.
It's so nice.
Even if you want to, tell us we're wrong about something and give us a chance to kind of respond to it. I mean, it's great. Getting that feedback and being able to sort of have that back and forth with you guys. So yeah. Don't feel like if you're listening to the podcast and you're driving down the road or whatever, and you're like screaming at the fucking radio, then maybe you should just take 2 seconds,
send us an email, tweet at us,
email us that question or why you didn't like this, or maybe you're confused about something, you want some clarity. I mean, let us know. I mean, I would venture to say that we're not experts by any means.
Dude, we're not even close. We're fans. We're just like you are.
So chances are we're getting a lot of shit wrong, but we try to get everything right. So if we miss something, or if you just want to talk about something, or you're curious about something, hit us up.
Yeah, you want us to talk about something specific. That's the cool thing too. That I'm glad that you brought that up, and then we will close it off. Is honestly, Jake and I, the reason we started this because we're fans of games, and we were both pretty avid in the PlayStation universe. That's where we were going to find our home. But we're no different than any other gamer out there. I mean, we're looking at the news channels, we're looking at stuff. The only thing maybe a little bit different is that we have a show and we just talk about it to each other, and then you guys can be flies on the wall and listen. So we just have our own opinions about stuff. So by all means, you're always invited to chime in. So send us some emails, talk to us, be our friends. We'll continue to build this community for another 100 and more. So we're going to keep pushing this, until we can. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in to episode 200 of PS This Is Awesome PlayStation Podcast. And I really, really hope that you found something interesting in this podcast. And again, if you didn't, this is a one-off. It was kind of more about Jake and I and less about games. And we had ourselves in mind for the first time in a long time. So this was fun for us, and we hope it was fun for you. And if you enjoyed the show, let us know. And if you didn't enjoy it, you can let us know. But again, this was a one-off, and we hope you all have had a nice holiday, and then going into New Year's, have a nice New Year's, because I think the next episode that we're going to be doing live, like Jake said, will be 202. So episode 202 will be back on point with current news, and we hope that you've enjoyed the show. And again, as always, make sure you're spending time with your family and loved ones during the holidays. It's super important. We're not ever promised a tomorrow. So that's all I got. Jake, you got anything else?
Nope. Everybody have a good. This is going to air probably the day
after Christmas,
the Sunday before Christmas.
Okay, yeah.
So if you haven't already done it, have a good holiday, and hopefully we will be back with you shortly. So
yeah,
everybody be safe if you're traveling. If not, enjoy the time off, get some rest, forget about the world and the COVIDs and the Omicrons and all this kind of stupid shit that's going on right now, and just literally turn off your phone and turn on your PlayStation. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I like it. Turn off the phone, turn on the PlayStation. That should be a t-shirt slogan, except we can't use the word PlayStation. All right, probably can't. Anyways, Layers of Fear, Life is Strange, and LA Noire. P.S.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Season in northwestern Pennsylvania. I lost my glove for the 100th time. Snow keeps coming, I'ma lose my mind. 'Tis the season, and I can't stop thinking about you. 2 months ago we were carving pumpkins with mistletoes, or eggnog jugging with us like last year. The snow chased you back to some West Coast beer. I've been alone. Why can't Santa send you straight back home? It's been so long. It's been so long. Northwestern Pennsylvania, I cleared a path to the front door. An hour passed, it wasn't clear no more. 'Tis the season, and I can't stop thinking about you. Blankets too short for my long legs. I smell death, a wicked stain on us. This year, the snow chased you back to some West Coast beer. I've been alone. Why can't Santa gift you straight back home? It's been so long.